Okay, how many of you have household help? I do. I didn't always have it in the States, but I sure as heck have it here. So cleaning, sewing, chauffeuring, caring for us when we're sick. There are so many things that our wonderful helpers do. And we have a responsibility. Most of us think, oh yeah, we pay them. That's easy. Because it's a pretty good price point. But there are a lot of other responsibilities we ought to be aware of. So there are laws, many laws about employment here, and some of the laws are enforced, some are not, some have been promulgated, but they haven't been enacted. I mean, it's pretty darn confusing. The big topic on today's Lips in San Miguel is Social Security, which is nothing like exactly what we have in Canada or the US. And do we need pay it, and do we need to pay their vacations, and do we need to pay their holidays, and what is it that we're really responsible for, and are we on the hook for something we're not even aware of? So today, my dear, dear, dear friends and lawyers, Anna and Mariana, who are with ProLegal here, a women-owned firm that is here for expats to help us navigate the Mexican law, are going to be able to dispel some of our myths, inform us about the current laws and how they're being interpreted, because it's always up to interpretation. And they are here because they have advanced credentials and advanced experience in a number of things that are really, really critical to our decision making. One is conflict resolution. I was really, really surprised that after 12 years, my very, very wonderful housekeeper, I called her house manager, came to me and kind of blew up at me, and I said, that really wasn't good. You can come back next week if you'd like, but you can't stay today. That wasn't nice. And she came back the next week and said, I quit. But then she told Mariana and Anna, she fired me. It's a whole different financial picture. So I just turned it over to them, and they told me when it was over, and I paid them a little fee, and it was just so easy. You know, as compared to, oh my God, he came back with his wife and his family, they're knocking on the door and they're crying, and I mean, the stories we've heard. So they're all about win-win, they're all about client protection. And so I want you right now to give some thought to what are your workers' hours, what's their salary, what are their attitudes? What are your working conditions for them? What are their days off? What about holidays? What about benefits? Because after they present, you'll have the opportunity to ask them many good questions. I present to you Anna and Mariana de ProLegal. Hold here, don't hold the black, just hold this open.
Okay. No, we're just going to need one. Good morning, everyone. I hope you can hear us well. Yes? We're just going to need one, or probably, yeah. Thank you. Well, thank you very much for the invitation. Thank you for the introduction. I always get very nervous when I have to stand in front of a group of people, so I hope I can just do much better in the following minutes. Okay. We're here today to share with you this morning and information that we consider is important for you to have available. We know that your very first thought in this morning wasn't to receive a labor law class this morning, but just to understand much better what is included in our law, and why do you need to know this, and what are the consequences, what is that these legal dispositions entitle, but mainly how is that you get to apply those to your life and to your relationships with your employees. How is that as employers, this may represent a way to prevent any legal matter, and if you are already hiring someone, how is that you can do some minor changes to benefit you, but also how to protect your employees. And we're going to be talking today about domestic employees. Anna has gathered this information, and we have gone through all the legal dispositions, but of course we will not just be explaining as it is in the law. We're trying to make it practical, and we just really want to convey this information with you today. So hopefully we will just meet your expectations, and I know we have just limited time, so we better start, okay? Thank you very much.
Good morning, all. We have said good morning plenty of times, but good morning. So we're going to talk about domestic employers because that is your position while you are here in San Miguel or somewhere in Mexico spending some of the time, maybe not the full year, but you are here, you need help in your house. So you have a housekeeper, a gardener, and most of the times what we have seen is those are part-time employees because they don't come Monday to Saturday, which is the full time that a person normally works in Mexico. So that doesn't make it because that is a question that a lot of people has is like, I have a housekeeper, but she just comes once a week. Do I have to pay her this or that? Well, yes, in proportion, but all of the benefits that are in law for employees are applicable to you the proportion that you use the services of your employees. So we'll start with these presentations. So for you to know, the law refers to working conditions, all the circumstances that make your labor relationship happen. So as working conditions, we have a salary. So you have a person who comes, and also most of the times you have decided to pay them by the hour. That is not that common in Mexico, but still, it's good and it's okay if you do so. Just know that the salary in Mexico is more considered by the day or by the week in this field, rather than by the hour. So if my housekeeper comes 3 hours a day, she makes 400 pesos, I say her daily salary is 400 pesos, okay? More than the hour. So we have working hours. That is what makes it to be a labor relationship. If it's a person, because it happens, you know someone who has stopped using the housekeeper and so she doesn't have a work, or the gardener, and they come and knock in your door and tell you, Señora, do you have work for me? And if you use a person who does not have fixed hours or days with you, that is not your employee. Your employee has a fixed salary that you have agreed and fixed working hours. I mean, in reality, if she cannot come on Tuesday and change it for a Wednesday, that's okay. But normally we have specific times assigned. And then we have the working conditions, which is what we are talking about, and it's the benefits. The time she comes, the salary she gets, the vacation she can get, the days off that she will get, those kind of circumstances that together make your relationship. Days off, we have to talk about days off. Again, in your cases, since you don't have full-time employees, days off are odd because the law says that someone who works 6 days a week is entitled to rest 1. In domestic employees specifically, the law says that when a person works the week, they have to rest at least 1.5 days. So, but again, in our cases, they just come 3 times a week. So the days, we consider that they have other days off. If there is a holiday on Monday and my housekeeper comes on Mondays, then she has to have that day off because it's an official holiday. And you can make arrangements so that she come another day, or you simply have to pay her and then she doesn't have to work, okay? And the labor benefits is, as we have discussed, certain things that appear in the law that we have to pay in addition to the salary. As Robin mentioned, it's not she came, I paid her. But over the time, she's earning labor benefits. One is called antigüedad, which is a seniority bonus that it's earned over the time that she has came. So she started to work for me last year. She has already earned 1 year of seniority. I don't have to pay those labor benefits, specifically not antigüedad, until we finish this labor relationship. There are other labor benefits that we have to pay year by year. They are accumulating, and those are vacation bonus, the Christmas bonus that most of you know, and antigüedad, aguinaldo, vacaciones, that's all, right? The seniority that we mentioned before, okay? Something that is very important is that you know that labor law in Mexico is of public order, because our law was created in a time when domestic employees were and still are considered a vulnerable part of the population. So sometimes they do not read, sometimes they do not go to school, they are not educated. So the law protects them, and employees can't waive the rights granted by the law, because maybe they don't know what they are entitled to receive, but that's why it's in the law, and we have to know that even when they say, don't worry, I don't need the vacation, I have to work, then they cannot waive legally those rights. In the practical life, sometimes it happens, but for you to know, it shouldn't be that way. So that is what we said before. Employees start earning their benefits from the first day they worked for us. In domestic employment, we have a 30-day period for us as employers to decide if we feel comfortable with our domestic employee. After the 30th day, if I pass 1 week and I never said I was not comfortable, we don't, make a good match, and I don't think I will use you anymore, that already means I have to pay this person a severance, okay? Because it's considered that I'm taking off their job, which is their main source of, surviving. So we have to pay severances. All domestic employees have benefits and the law protection regardless of their working hours. So as I said, if it's a gardener who only comes once a week, that doesn't make it that he's not entitled to be protected by the law, especially in these times about the Social Security and all of that. But we will see that in a minute, okay? So again, and just to make sure that we are all aware of what we have to provide or to pay our employees, the legally required labor benefits are vacation and vacation bonus, which you may have heard also that this year it increased. We were it was out of this, for discussion from the Congress to see if they would increase the vacation period or not, and it was approved. So the vacation for this year, it's 12 days after a person has accumulated 1 year of work. In your cases, or in this specific case, again, because we don't have full-time employees, that is in proportion, okay? So you don't have to be afraid that you have to pay, not for paying, but that you will be left with without your housekeeper for too long. No, this applies as it accumulates in the time, depending on the days that the person comes to you. Christmas bonus, you all know, we have to pay in December, ideally prior to the 20th of December, so they have this. And you know how much you pay for Christmas bonus? 2 weeks. That is the amount that we have to pay for Christmas bonus. 2 weeks of salary. Termination benefits. That it's a little bit more complex. I don't know if I have to say there is a formula or there isn't a formula. Because there is a formula in the way that every benefit has a specific compensation. As I said, for Christmas we pay 2 weeks, For vacation, depending on the years they have performed, we pay either 12 days, 14 days, 16 days. It increases with time. For termination, if I decided to terminate my employee because something was missing and nobody else has access to my house, so I'm pretty sure, God didn't take it. If it was not me, maybe she, or maybe, the gardener or someone. Something is missing in my house. I already lost the trust. I don't think we will be continuing with this labor relationship, so I will terminate her. That means that I know I will have to pay her a severance, which is 3 months of her salary, plus the earned benefits over time. If it was her who actually decided she cannot continue to work for family reasons or whatever, then she's quitting, I have to pay for termination only the labor benefits in proportion, the Christmas, aguinaldo, vacaciones, antigüedad. I don't have to pay the severance of 3 months. So that is, subject to determine depending on the reasons. And lastly, Social Security enrollment, which brought us here. That is now in the law. It has been there since 2019. Labor law was amended in 2019 to determine that domestic employees are entitled to Social Security, that they weren't in the past. Now, even when it's in the law, the labor law, it's not yet in the Social Security law. And that's why we are in this point where we are uncertain, not myself, but you as employers do not know, because you hear you have to do it, you don't have to do it, you can do it, it's voluntarily, or so we are there. We are in this sort of gap where we have it as something that the law is obliging us to do, but they haven't given us the resources on how to do it. So the Social Security has launched a pilot program, and I think that goes farther in. So there it is. Social Security has been required now for full and part-time employees, even if the person only comes 3 hours a week, 5 hours a week, 4 hours, it doesn't matter. Now it's mandatory. Application to domestic employees is starting to be enforced. As I said, it's already in the law. I guess the government and the people who have to work on that are starting to putting together the platform or the way to make it easier for you to comply. Now, as I said, it's done through a pilot program. So I don't know how many of you have explored the topic or have actually gone into the website. I will give it to you in a moment. If you go there, you will find a specific link for domestic employees, which in Spanish is being translated in the site as trabajadores del hogar, like the workers in my house. So if you go there, you will see that it refers a second phase of a pilot program. We are working under trial and error. So in previous years, after 2019, when the law was changed, they started with the first phase of the pilot program, and there was a minimum that a person had to make, which was 800 pesos per month, in order to be able to enroll them. It could be done by then by the employees or the employer. Now, in this second phase, it has to be done by the employers. We have to do it. We need some cooperation from them because we need some information, which is the CURP number and their Social Security number. Without that, we cannot enroll them as our employees. And then very important, this social security thing, I know for you, is easy to understand because you are protected in your countries by social security. Unfortunately, in Mexico, it doesn't work as good. So there is a lot of resistance from our employees because they feel their salary will be deducted, they will have to pay taxes, they will be taken away their Seguro Popular. So unfortunately, employees are seeing it not like a benefit as it is, but again, it can be that they do not have the correct information, and it's our work, not ours, but yours, to tell them, to inform them that besides medical help, they receive other benefits that are worth for them considering, and so they maybe are less hesitant to be enrolled. So these are the benefits that the employees get by being enrolled. They get medical service where they are given free medicine and obstetric care. It's important because a lot of the housekeepers, sometimes they work for you and then suddenly, well, not suddenly, but they get married, they have children. So that is important, that they can have their revisions, and they don't have to pay for that, and they have the key that the Social Security, so they are protected on obstetric care. They also receive working capacity, because what happens if they are in an accident while they are working in our house, or while they are on the way to our house, so they can be protected by receiving money for working capacity, and then it doesn't go out from our pocket. And then they also receive disability pension and survivorship pension, because things happen, and if something very bad happens and they, get hurt, their wrist, their leg, whatever, they are now incapacitated, they will be receiving an amount to protect them, and survivorship in case they even die, their family get some part of a pension. They also receive a retirement fund, which is, important. I think they feel it's a tiny amount, but little by little, because the fee that you have to pay is not huge. But something is better than nothing. So if they are self-employed, or they just work for you or for others, but they don't have other source of income to make any savings or anything, what will happen when they cannot work? So having a little bit of a retirement fund will help them and their families. And they also receive social benefits such as funeral services and daycare. So it's, as I said, more than just the possibility to go to the doctor and not pay. It's more than that. And now, how it benefits us as employers. Well, as I said, and the major benefit that I see as employer is that in case the employee is injured while performing their job, they can be covered by Social Security, because then is when the big problems start, or they can come. We normally don't think they can fall while cleaning a window, while climbing a ladder to cut the tree, whatever. And those things actually happen, and they are costly, especially because, unfortunately, when these kind of things happen, the behavior or the attitude from the employee can change. And not only of the employee, of the family, like, oh, this employer of yours, he's so unfair, he has all this money, how come you're not paid, a lot of money because you fail while working there? So, those things happen, and the fact that we are covered for accidents, it's worth the whole process. So there is it. It says it eliminates employer liabilities for accidents because then the government, through the Social Security, takes care of the expenses of the accident itself and of future potential expenses. It provides for them, as I said, aunque sea, even a little piece of retirement. And it actually, of course, the benefit is that we comply with the law. So it's there. I know I have to do it. I do it. And then that is a benefit too.
Can I answer a quick question here?
Sure.
So if an employee works very part-time and has declined previously to be signed up for this, her explanation is, I'm already signed up for Social Security. Other work.
Or Seguro Popular.
Does our contribution then raise these levels?
Correct, exactly. If they already work for someone, they are making a little bit there and a little bit with you and a little bit with someone else. So the retirement, of course, will be increasing. Their benefits that they end up receiving will be bigger.
But the elimination of employer liabilities applies to each employer.
Exactly, separately.
Okay, so before moving to the, yes.
Years ago, we set up a retirement account for our mayor, and we've been putting money in equal to the every quarter. Can I get credit for that when I sign her up on the official program?
The answer will be no. So your specific situation would have to be reviewed, but a quick answer would be no. Yes.
Can we hold questions until the end? I don't want them to run out of time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Before going to the following, yes, sheet Anna has prepared, I just want to make a very quick comment about the benefits for employees and employers. This is very important for you to know. When we talk about compliance with legal requirements, this means it's not optional. You have to comply. You have to comply. And we know the number of excuses an employee may have, and honestly, ourselves as employers too. We could have several excuses not to do it. But as I was speaking to Ron the first time we talk about this topic, from my point of view, when you know something is mandatory in the law, you know, and you are in that specific situation, is like being in that horror movie when you know the guy is inside the house and you may open the door and it will appear, you know, or you will run to the kitchen and may chase you. You are running that risk. You are running that risk, and you have to be aware of that. Not to scare you, not to create a different mindset of what the implications would be, because you already know the several implications. You have heard these stories over and over again for over the years, and we as well in our practice. Anna and I have been practicing together for 12 years, and I can only tell you the number of stories that we have encountered in our legal practice that could have been prevented by just taking these little steps. So this is just to encourage you to find a solution for your own specific situation. And once it's set up, it's very easy just to continue complying with this. So we're moving to the following one.
Okay. So that also brings us to other obligations. Now we know that it's mandatory to enroll them in Social Security. And we have other obligations that for many, many years we have had. But we either didn't know, or she doesn't want to have a contract, or those kind of things. So these are basic obligations that you have to make sure that you are meeting. You must have a contract that includes your working conditions, her working or his working conditions. You have to have a paper. That is in the law. It specifically states that working conditions have to be written in a document signed by both parties. What happens? We don't have one. I don't have one. I'm sorry, but I have to confess, I don't have one. With my housekeeper, but is what Mariana said. If eventually in the future there is some disagreement, we terminate the relationship, she takes me to court, my obligation will be show your contract. I won't, then I'm already in a loss. I'm already in a bad position. So it can be something very simple, but it must exist. We have to have it. We have to be recording the payment of the salary and the benefits, because again, if something happens in the future, I remember I paid her 600 pesos, but suddenly she says she's paid 1,000 pesos. Who's going to have the truth? The paper or the receipt, or, we have to provide those records. It's our obligation, not hers. And then we have, of course, to abide by the law. That is there, and I was thinking of removing it because it just refers articles that you may have never read and you will not. But those articles say specific obligations that you, in your mind, already know. We have to be considerate to them. If they work 8 hours, they have to have time for lunch, they have to have time for rest, we have to provide them the materials to perform. Those obligations are in those articles, and you know them because that is like common sense and humanity. So those are the obligations we have. We also have to allow the employee to rest on the official holidays, as I mentioned before. And then we have to pay the severance when the working relationship is over. This last one is a total, topic for something else, because there are different causes. If I sell my house, if I die, if she quits, if I fired her, those different circumstances when a labor relationship finishes determine the amount that we have to pay.
I just want to say recording payment could be as simple as just having a notebook in your house, or just separate receipts. Something of your preference that may work. It should include the full name of your employee, and I want to encourage you to keep a copy of their identifications in your house for any purposes. That's very important for you to have their legal names. So just have them sign every time they come, or as Ana mentioned, every time they receive a benefit. And is something very simple to keep. If something may happen, you don't need to provide very official paperwork. It's just a matter of you keeping good records of those payments. And as I said, a simple notebook may work.
So the next one, it's actually just making sure that we know when our domestic employees are considered domestic employees. If they provide care, cleaning, or maintenance in our home, not our business, not the condo, the common areas, that is not our domestic employee. Domestic is the person who goes to my home to do my cleaning, or those cleaning tasks. And then, so if the person goes and cleans the casita that I have, that I rent, then that makes it not domestic employee. Now, Again, we have a specific circumstance because she actually cleans my house where I live, but she also cleans the other house. So that would be point to review. But if she only cleans the house that I rent, I'm receiving an economic benefit, so that would make it not be a domestic employee. So that happens with hotels, restaurants, again, condominiums, where they clean common areas. Those are not domestic employees. And then, so we have this specification. Even well, we have domestic employees of different types, those who work full-time and live in our home. That is very rare nowadays, but in the past it happened. They would come and stay, live in my house, and then go on the weekend to their homes or so. That is less common every day. We have full-time of people who come and they live in their house, but normally in domestic employment is also weird. But some people have full-time domestic employees. And the last one, which is the more common in our community, is part-time persons who come to our house just to clean a couple of days, a couple of hours, and those are considered domestic employees. So something important for you to know, you all are beyond the minimum wage. I have never seen someone who pays them this, but for you to know, a person who comes and clean my house cannot receive less than 218 pesos. That's the minimum wage for a day in Mexico. I don't know how they survive, but that's the way it is. And then for you to know, approximately the Social Security fees are of 12% of their monthly salary, more or less. Every case is different, and the way to know how much I pay for Social Security is there is a calculator on the website of the IMSS where I can enter the name, the days she comes per month, the salary she makes per month, and it will give me the total amount that I have to pay by the month. So that way I will know. I have to tell you, as I said, this is in process. Yesterday night I was trying to enroll my housekeeper, and everything was going well until I clicked the last part of the process, and I obtained this sign saying, error. I think it's happening to everyone. The site is friendly. It seems that it will be working out eventually. So far, it's not working. I have tried and I don't know what's, yeah. So, this is a process. The best thing here is that you all have the intention, that you know your obligation and are willing to meet it. And so just be patient. Don't feel like you have to do it now, otherwise you will be in trouble. You won't. Start creating the awareness, the consciousness on your employees of this is a process, this will happen, you will be covered, it's good for you. And we are on our path to accomplish that. So that is the summary. We have domestic employees are now covered by Social Security. That is a possibility. It wasn't, now it is. Employees must register to be eligible, and employers are obliged to pay those fees. So your obligations, meeting the Social Security will be something that protects both, and that will have, will thing happens. And I think that is all.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I know there are a lot of questions. There's a lot of questions online. One of the requests was to make sure the microphone can go up so that the Zoom people can hear too. Okay, so we'll start at the front. Are you ready? Okay, great. Keep your microphone because we need you too. Okay, I'll hold.
Thank you. Okay, so my domestic employee says she does not have a Social Security number. So if she doesn't have, for instance, a CURP or a Social Security number, and I'm obligated to pay this, how do I get her to do that?
Well, as I said, you first need to talk her into this is something that benefits you. You want to comply as employer, but you need her to do that first move. She needs to have a Social Security number. That cannot be obtained by a third party. The person has to go.
So I could fire her and say, I've got to have this or not? No.
But actually, CORP is very easy to obtain online. You just have to put your name and your date of birth, and it will pop out. It's something that is free. You can do it online. It's done in 3 minutes at the most. That works. Not as the Social Security webpage. And same with identifications. A lot of people don't have an ID. Because you need your ID for Social Security purposes. And when we are not in times of voting, it will be issued with less than a month. So it's very easy to get the requirements in place.
But you cannot fire her because, again, in the website, it says that we are in the pilot program, so it's voluntary. So if she does not get you what you need, you cannot fire her.
Gail?
Okay, I register my employee next month. How long before she can expect to have the benefits available to her?
See, it's actually you pay 1 month and the benefits are for the full next month. Okay?
Yeah, the payment is due on the 20th of every month. I've done this for 6 years. On the 20th of the month, and as you pay ahead. So you pay the 20th of this month, it's good for March.
March.
I feel it a likelihood that employees don't know about this program and that being enrolled might deter employers from taking them on, which would make them reluctant, and also they're like not internet savvy and so forth. So how do, who's working on the other end to raise awareness to employers? It seems like something the Rotary Club could even take on. And like the crossroad between what's best for them, you know, gets a little bit muddy when they won't get employment or they can't go to their employer because they've got backlog, like they've worked Christmases for the past 10 years with no, so you just run with that.
See, thank you. Yes, that's right. Someone has to work on that side so that they are aware of what they can gain with this. We have, by the way, some handouts in Spanish for your employees. Some do not read, I'm sorry, but for them to have or take it to her family member to read what are the benefits that they get, so then maybe they'll change their attitude towards this. Okay.
We're going to try to extend a little bit. If you need to leave, please feel free to go ahead, because I think there's so many questions that I think you'll stay. And we have El Presidente wants to.
Thanks for coming. Okay, so the meeting is over, but you can stay, okay? But you feel free to leave, and thank you very much.
President. Okay. Yes, thank you. Could you give us example, like for example, if an employee only works 1 day, and let's just assume for simplicity 500 pesos a day, how you do the vacation time and the vacation bonus? What is a vacation bonus?
Okay, I'll try to get that one. Well, in our cases, what we would regularly do is just to get a percentage, either by the number of weeks. So it is understood, even when an employee rests 1 day, which regularly is a Sunday in terms of our law, that an employee is working for you 52 weeks during the year. Yeah, so that would be 100%. 100% represents 52 weeks or 365 days. And so if your employee only comes 52 times, 52 days, once a week, rather than 365, what I do in the cases when I calculate the benefits is I get the percentage those number of days represent out of the 100%. So 100% is 365 days. What is the percentage for? 52, 104 days. I don't know how you say that in English, but we use what we know at tab. It's just a very simple math, so we get that percentage. Some benefits cannot be lower than certain amounts, as Ana was mentioning. So it's at least 128 pesos a day for all calculations. So if when you're doing the calculation, your amount goes lower than that, than 128 days, 128 pesos, you have to know all calculations must go with 128 pesos. If the amount that you get is lower than that.
Next, someone else? Okay.
Yeah. Oh, you hold it, okay. Could you give us an example of what to include in the contract? How simple it has to be? Do we need help, or is that something we can just write up? It's simple enough for us to write up.
See, it is something super simple. We just have to include your general information as employer, your name, the place where the job is being performed, their general information, at least their name, their address, their age is important for labor law, and the working conditions, how many days a week she's coming, what is her salary, what days she will rest, if it's, for several days in the week. If it's only 2 days a week, that's enough. And, general, that would be it.
Please, go ahead. Here.
Okay. I apologize if I didn't understand the previous explanation, but from what I've read about vacation days, for employers, I was under the impression that it was 12 days for the first year that they worked for you, and then it's incremental by a day or two in the subsequent years. But if they're part-time, you take a percentage? Is that what I understand from you?
Yes, because the rule is one accumulated year. So they have to accumulate 1 year to be entitled to 12 days of vacation. Yes. That's correct. They have to accumulate 1 year.
So I have an employer that has worked part-time for me for 3 years, first year's 12 days, and the next year it's incremental.
No, we're going to take your percentage in that case. So if they don't come all week, you have to take out of the 12 years the percentage that applies to the number of days your employee works with you.
Okay, I have 2 questions. One is, do you have some sort of a standard form that we can use to present to them and fill in the information so that we have some sort of a contract? Because I don't know how to put one together, but it's got to be somewhat generic form somewhere along the line. And I forget what the second question was.
What's the website you talk about?
I see. It's www.imss, I as in I, M as in mother, SS, .gov, G-O-V, .mx. And there we can, we will share with the president and John and the members that we know that information, and we can also share a standard form of a contract you were asking for, right? Yes, so you can, work with it.
Ron will put this meeting up on the website, and he can, if you give Ron Lennox that information, he can put it on the website also, and everybody can access it from there.
See, I'm sorry, I'm an attorney and I need to make a disclaimer. I mean, we are happy to provide that, just for you knowing that doesn't constitute a specific advice. But of course, we're happy to provide that.
Okay, 2 questions. What is the minimum number of hours that they must work to be eligible for Social Security?
Today, there is no minimum, even if it's 1 hour.
So I've got a gardener that works 2 hours a week. Do I have to include him?
Yes,
Oh.
and your fee will be tiny, but because they are people who work in different places, every little counts. So your tiny thing added to the other person, your neighbor or the other, will be adding. So there's no minimum now.
Okay. Now, for vacation, if they work 2 days a week, how do you compute vacation on that?
I would say the simpler way would be if a full-time worker works 6 days a week, and this person just comes 2 days a week, I would pay a third of the 12 days because he or she works a third of the week. So for 1 year, it's 12 days, a third would be 4 days.
So how many vacation days do they get for that?
4 days after 1 year.
Okay.
So all of those part-time employees, you have to make a proportion, as Mariana was saying. You either add up all the days and then have it prorated with the year, or a third of the week, but it's in proportion.
Question. In the United States and many of the countries, you do background investigations on employees that are going to work in your home to see if they have criminal convictions for attacking people or murder or some kind of sexual crime. So my question is, do you have the capability to do background searches on these employees? And can you tell us what they are?
Yes, there are 2 things you can do. So one is to carry out a background check on the person. And something that you have to be aware is this type of background checks come with the name of the person. And sometimes some names are very common. So we may get results from other people, and what we regularly do is to filter that information, because some results will come in Sonora and other places that this person may have not been around. The other thing you could do, and this is very simple to obtain, is you could actually ask your employee, and this is not considered discrimination, for a letter of not criminal record, which is issued here in San Miguel in the offices of the DA. They get to pay something around 300 pesos approximately, and is issued within the very same day. It is a requirement for a lot of jobs, especially for big companies, and again, it's not considered any type of discrimination. It's not illegal to ask for this kind of documents. That's a very good question.
Thank you. I have a question. If you have a garden and you tell a man, I want you to keep my garden clean and I'll pay you 500 pesos a week, and he says, when should I come? And you say, whenever you need to. You can come for an hour, you come for 3 hours, I'll just pay you 500 pesos a week to keep my garden in good condition. Are they an employee?
Yes.
They are.
He comes every week, regardless if he comes maybe... Okay, you didn't say every week? It can be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whenever, but if the person comes every week, at least 1 day, that is an employee. Every 2 weeks. If it's periodical, yes. If it's, every 2 months and then he disappears, he goes to the States to work, he comes back, then no. But if it's periodical, yes.
I have a house manager that I pay, and she pays all my bills, and provides a gardener 2 hours a week. She pays them. Am I the employer, or is she the employer?
See, actually, you have joint liability, but yesterday I was checking on the IMSS site, and they foreseen agencies. So, like right now, if your manager can be considered an agency, if he is paying the person and you pay the manager, then just make sure that he has enrolled your your employee in Social Security, and then she can take care of it.
Last question. And then you can come up and ask personally after that.
If we choose to pay our employees Social Security benefits ourselves, in other words, we pay our part and her part, is there a particular procedure, or we just get handed the money and, how can you handle that?
Well, actually, anyone can do the payment. The payment, even some banks provide you with that service, but the way it's done is there is a page that is created online, comes with the name of your employee and a reference to make the payment in the bank or online. So you could do either. Your employee can take the money directly to the bank, and the bank will require this form, which is issued online. It's actually very easy to do. Myself, I have those payments scheduled in my account, my personal account, and it goes through every month automatically. Yes.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop. Thank you very much for coming. We want you to remember us every morning when you have your coffee. And we hope you'll come back in about 6 months and tell us how all this has worked out.